Hello and welcome to Lower League Lingo episode 27. It's potentially going to be one of the shortest ones that we've had, with just the two of us here and a little bit of a background on half of the regional leagues. But we'll also have a little bit more in depth on half of the regional leagues. So if you want to find out which ones and you're not sure because you're not from around these here parts, come back over the other side of this and we'll take you through it. Good evening, everybody. I know that the vast majority of you are already sat with your feet up watching Chelsea against Manchester City in the second of the, I don't know what you call it, the quad of games that they've got coming up. You're used to having a trilogy. We're not used to having a four-peat of these sorts of things. But if you're not, then brilliant. Lovely to have you here. And if you are, hopefully you've popped in. So come and have a little look. John is with us, our resident Midlands expert. How are you doing, Mr. Foster?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Yeah, obviously lower league lingo, and it's not just the regional league. We've got a bit of county cup action. I don't know if you have down south or if Gareth would have done, but we had a little bit. So yeah, quite an exciting week for us.
Yeah, well, not a huge amount of County Cup info, I have to tell you, from down these ear parts that I'm from, but there is certainly lots to get through. So we are going to do so, and we've decided we're going to have a little bit of a shift about. We're not going to go from north to south like we so often do this time. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the half from the people that would usually be here. So Gareth, obviously from the north, and potentially Stu from the southwest. So we're going to take a little look at those, and then we will jump into the leagues that we are more familiar with. But there are, to be fair, quite a few things to look at. So John, do feel free to jump in as and when these things happen. But this is, of course, the Southwest Premier, which is where we're going to start, one of the smaller leagues due to the fact that they've only got 11 teams. But as you can see, just a couple of ups and downs, really. Torquay United winning 3 games since we saw them last, and as a result, have jumped up into second place, whereas Forest Green Rovers lost one of their 3, did win the other 2, but that, of course, that loss has meant that Torquay have jumped just above them. The fantastically named Aiki Boko in the middle of the table there have dropped down with Ilminster as well. That's because Ilminster managed to win one of their 2 games, whereas Boko only drew one of the 3 games they were playing at, with the loss on the other one. The rest of them all very much as you were in terms of what has been going on in that league. There's been quite a few. Marine, obviously, at the top. They've won 3 of their 3 out of the 3 of their last games, including a 7-0 battering of AFC St Austell, which you've got to say is probably a bit of a bad thing for St Austell. They're feeling quite sad about that, I would imagine. And one of those losses for Aiki Boko was indeed from Torquay United. So, I mean, a lot happening here, John, but I've got to be honest, you look at St Austell, it's gone really, isn't it? He's got 15 points in which they can possibly get 5 games left to go. And if they were to win by some miracle every single one of their games, they would finish, as it stands currently, 1 point ahead of Paul Town. So every chance this weekend, John, that we could be saying goodbye to AFC St Austell.
Absolutely, yeah. And you can just see by the minus 75 goal average, it's not looking great for them, is it at all? I think they would have potentially already been start looking at next season. You know, maybe a few weeks ago, they have to look at sustainability. They'll look at bringing in players who are happy to be in the league below. And just like looking at going again really for next season and just start getting a head start for then. I would have thought it's a shame to say that, and I'm sure the team are still fighting, you know, every game to try and win every game. But realistically, I think when you're at that level in the league, you have got to be thinking, okay, what's next season going to be looking like? So massively a shame for those. We've seen teams now drop, aren't we? This time of the year, there's a few teams that are looking like that they've been relegated already. So yeah, never nice to see. But what I would say is, looking at these tier 5 leagues at the moment, how still unstable some of the amount of games played actually are. And I was going to mention it in the Midlands leagues, but I'll mention it there because this is a great example. I think the tier 3, tier 4 leagues, the leagues have done a great job in balancing them up quite recently. And even in tier 4 West Midlands, which we'll see shortly, regarding the title race, the leagues are kind of like the games played is gradually getting level. Whereas this one, it still seems quite erratic, doesn't it? So that'll obviously have a bearing on there. But the relegation battle, it's still out there, isn't it, with 10th place teams still having games in hand.
It's a bit of a shocker, really. Like you say, Forest Green Rovers, 7 games still to play over the side at the top there, Marine. And that's amazing because that's 21 points potentially. It could put them on to 53 if they were to win every single one of them. Whereas, of course, Marina sat there just sort of nearly at the end of theirs. They've got 2 games left to go. Yeah, you mentioned AFC St Austell as well, and non-fulfillment is what their points were deducted for, 3 of them on the end of January, and it's just kind of led, as you say, to a bit of an issue. I do have to tell you, although it says 11, I didn't change it. It seems they've actually played 16, which makes a lot more sense. So there we go. So they have played 16. That one did not save. So Forest Green are on 16, but still 2 games in hand. So the good news is that Forest Green are not at some sort of ridiculously awful level. It's still reasonably manageable, but Torquay are indeed on 14, and with those 12 points, they could get 1 point above Marine Academy. So really, really big there. AFC St Austell, just in case you're wondering, their next game is against Forest Green Rovers, who are obviously, like you say, right up at the top there. So not looking great for them. Bishop's Lydiard, on the other hand, not so bad for them. They potentially have some opportunities over the next couple of weeks. They're going to play an AEK Boko. As we said, their form at the moment isn't ideal. So a few things there that could happen for Bishop's Lydiard. And then their next game, unfortunately, on the 30th, is against Torquay United. So not looking ideal, whereby Pooltown this weekend will be facing Pucklechurch. So that's a big game there, right between 8th and 9th. A chance for Poole to try and pull away, if you will, there. But then they've got to play Forest Green Rovers. And I think, John, really, that's the big issue here, is that these teams that are fighting relegation are very much in a situation where they're going to have to face some of these big guns that are missing games at the moment. And that, I think, is going to be what causes it for them at the end. But Paul and Bishop...
Sorry to interrupt there. I just wanted to underestimate Pucklechurch as well, because obviously where they are in the league. However, look at the games in hand that they've got. Look, they're only minus 11 on goal average compared to the teams below them, which makes me think that they are quite a difference above. So even though league position-wise, you think to yourself, oh, they're against 8, they stand a chance. But let's see where Pucklechurch would actually be if they played those extra 2 or 3 games. That they could be all of a sudden right up the top of that league, couldn't they? Well, higher up at least.
Yeah, very true. I mean, what was that? 9 points they potentially go to. They could easily be in 5th. So, yeah, it certainly puts a different shine on it. An AAK Boko would look like they would drop down there. So that's what's happening over the next couple of weeks in the Southwest Premier. So really the only thing that is likely to be decided by the next time we look at Tier 5, we will probably be in the position where we can say goodbye to AFC St Austell, but we won't know about Marine and Torquay because obviously lots going on there. Marine will actually be in a County Cup match against Fennerton Women this weekend. So in that respect, they won't have anything to play for in terms of the league. But Torquay United on the 23rd don't seem to have a game to play either. So this is what bizarre, it's a perfect weekend to try and pull one of the games back. It's not going to happen. So Marine are going to have some really empty weekends coming up. And then when you get to the 30th, Torquay do play, as we said, against Bishop's Lydiard. You would think that's 3 points closer to Marine, but hard to tell. So we're not going to have a title decided. By the time we come back, we may well have a relegation. So there we go. That is the Southwest. We're going to nip over now to the Southern Premier, with just the 10 teams in it over here. The Southern Prem has had not much happen at the top, really. Ascot United won 2 games, Wycombe won 3, and Oxford won the only game that they played. So they maintained their top 3 positions, but a little bit of switcheroos going on between 4th and 9th. Portchester winning 2 games. Brilliant jump up for them. They've jumped up over Woodley United there. Winchester City Flyers won 1 of their 2 games, and as a result, jumped above Sholin, who lost their only game. Big one for me here is Reading Community Trust, John. We've spoken a lot about them. Obviously, an ex-WSL side got relegated, dropped down immediately to Tier 5. This is where they've ended up. Looked to all intents and purposes like they were going to be one of the 2 teams that dropped into Tier 6. But of their last 3 games, they've managed to win 2 out of those 3. Now, when you look at them as well, some pretty good results. They lost to Wycombe Wanderers 6-1, but they beat Badshot Lee, the team that they jumped over, 1-0, and they beat Chelsea 3-0 as well. We said that those 2 games were going to be massive for them because they were teams in and around the area they were at. 6 points that's given them. They were obviously on 3, level with Badshot Lee, but with a poor goal difference. Now, those 2 wins have thrown them right back to where they need to be. And when you look at their running, they've got Woodley United, which is a mid-table side, Oxford City, which maybe isn't a win. They've got to play Badshot Lee one more time, and they've got AFC Portchester as well. So 2 that are not so winnable, perhaps. 1 that's got a draw maybe if they work hard. But really, you feel like if they get that win against Badshot Lee, that's probably Reading staying up, which in the grand scheme of things, pretty unexpected, wasn't it?
I think we've said this almost at the start, like the start of the series, the start of the season, where when you're in like a little mini league, and whether or not Reading Community Trust consider this at the start of the season or not, whether they would be towards the bottom or not, you can. It's almost like out of all the games throughout the season, so long as you win 4 specific ones against the teams around you, that's all you need to do. And it's never nice to kind of ignore the other games, but just focus on 2 home games, 2 away games against your nearest rivals. But those 4 games, if you win those 4, you're pretty much guaranteed to stay up. And I'm not saying this was Reading's plan all along. However, you can stay composed because when you haven't played, you can get all the way to February, March, and if you still haven't played the 2 teams around you, we've only played them once. It's still points up for grabs, isn't there? And that's kind of what we've just seen here. So they've only won 3 games all season. 2 of them have been in the last month, and yes, you can be worried if you're Reading because you still have to win those games. However, if you've been practicing all season and putting all your eggs in one basket and it comes good, then all of a sudden, you've got that morale boost going into the final stretch. Then, like I say, 1 more game would probably seal it for them. It's always interesting to see what the club's ambition is at the start of the season compared to where they are at the end. Have they achieved what they wanted to achieve? But obviously, there was in a bad way at the start of the season. Did they think they was going to come into Tier 5 and walk it, or did they think to themselves, well, let's just get used to the league, stay in the league and build? But now, congratulations to them, because obviously with only that 1 win up until that winning games, they could have really buckled under the pressure, but it looks like they've rose to it.
No, they could have. I mean, like, had they not won those 2 games, it really would have been very interesting, even with the Badshot Lee one. But Badshot have got Winchester City Flyers on the 30th of March. So in 2 weeks' time, that will be the game that they're playing. Obviously, if they don't get 3 points there, and let's be clear, they've not had 3 points all season, Badshot Lee, they need a win now. If they don't beat Winchester City Flyers, a draw's not good enough either, then Badshot will be down. Chelsea are the first team that we're going to look at that are relegated. They've only got 2 points and only 2 games left. So 6 points is the best they could manage. They won't do it, to be honest. I think they've got Portchester and Ascot United, so I can't see that happening for them. But Chelsea are out of the league, really. Looks like they're dropping down to Tier 6. I would put my money on Badshot Lee, if I'm honest, because like I said, they've not won one, but you just never know. Backs against the wall, they might just give it one last push. And it could be that in 2 weeks' time, we are sat here looking at this league again, and it might well be a case of Badshot Lee against Reading Community Trust, purely to see who is going to stay up. So it could be really cinematic, or it could be a bit of a damp squib. really, depending on how things go. In terms of the league title, I'm not convinced we're going to have anything major sorted within the next 2 weeks either. Ascot United will be in League Cup action against Portchester, Sholing also in that with the Winchester City Flyers. So we won't see a huge amount of football there. It's only Woodley and Reading that will be playing. Again, if Reading get a point there, that's Badshot lead down as well. They literally just need one more point. But on the 30th, that's when Badshot will play Winchester City Flyers. Might be important, might not. Reading will be away to Oxford City. So Oxford there on the 30th might well find themselves a little bit closer to the top two. But with Chelsea playing AFC Portchester and Woodley against Ascot, Ascot with an opportunity to maintain that 5-point gap at the very least, as Wickham will be facing Sholing. So not the easiest, but who knows. So we're not going to have, again, any titles decided in 2 weeks' time by the time we come back here, even though this is probably the closest league to being completed. So, yeah, some interesting stuff there. But anything else you want to add on the Southern Premier, John?
No, it's just nice to see a household name in there as well. Wickham Wanderers, we always learn a lot when we talk about regional leagues, because we never heard some of the teams. I haven't heard a lot of the teams where you live, nearby you. And so to see a name like Wickham Wanderers, obviously towards the top of that table, is that something that they would be looking at doing this year, because they are a bit more of a bigger badge? Do they need this promotion, or are they on the way up? Is it more of a 2-3 year plan that they've got, or would you consider maybe a second place position a failure this season for them? So interested to see how they progress throughout this year and next.
It's interesting that you mentioned this, actually, John. I mean, we'll take a slight break from what we've been doing here just to have a quick chat about what you've just mentioned there, because actually I think what you've just said is really quite an important point, because people have mentioned things like, why are you doing this? There might only be 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 viewers, depending on where it is, maybe 130. But actually, from our point of view, and you said this yourself the other day as well, it's really broadening our knowledge. Like, it's so easy to just think that women's football is the WSL and the Championship, and that's really all that you need to care about. But when you start looking at Tier 3, Tier 4, Tier 5, you start seeing those things and you think, well, actually, you pick up these names. All of a sudden, the FA Cup early rounds become a little bit more interesting, because you start seeing, oh, actually, there's little stories going on around here. Some of the players you start seeing more and more again. But equally, when you start thinking about, well, which teams are coming up from Tier 6, which ones are coming down from Tier 4, all of a sudden you start thinking, well, actually, that one's a bit closer. So often I would see the leagues and they would say, oh, this one's been moved sideways. You're sort of thinking, well, why has this one been moved sideways? And it's only now that we've really got into it that you start thinking, well, obviously, it's about the geography. So I'm sitting already thinking, well, London Seaward, they're coming down to Tier 5. Think about the Eastern region. I'm thinking to myself, I think they're going to be East London. So actually, is it a possibility that Barking, who were moved sideways to go into the London and South East last season, are they going to be moved sideways again? Are they going to have to bounce back up into the Eastern region so that there's room for London Seaward to go into the London and South East? You're just not sure anymore. You look at both of the South East ones, when they drop, they've got to go into one or t'other. So I find it's been amazing. I've genuinely loved every single second of this. So even if nobody else is learning or taking anything from it, like from a personal point of view, it's been mind-blowing.
I think the biggest thing for when I'm trying to explain it to friends maybe who may not even know women's football, it's called a pyramid for a reason, isn't it? It's not a ladder where you got top league, second league, third league, fourth league, fifth league. It is literally from the third tier down, it divides, doesn't it, like into two, and then into four, and obviously you got 6 leagues, the whole of the National League, and then it is just like a pyramid. And to try and explain this to people, it's so high up in the pyramid that it starts to break away, and you make side steps even in Tier 3, which could happen next year. It's happened this year with Rugby Borough. It is, but yeah, I think at this level, it's just really raw. And let's not forget, maybe maybe only 6 or 7 years ago, some of the things that we saw in the Championship, like say for example, Manchester United being the only full-time team in the Championship. Now we've seen that, well, last year in Tier 3. Will we see it in Tier 4 next year? It is very much replicated. Everything that we've already seen and witnessed, whether it be fans singing, fans making flags, social media improving, YouTubers are talking about, this was never a case, 4 or 5 years ago at this level, but it is filtering down. It's just taken a few years to do, isn't it?
Yeah. And it will. It will. I mean, we've said many a time, women's game is 50 years behind the men's game because it wasn't allowed to grow as organically as the men's game has. So I've loved it. Anyway, that was a really nice little interlude there. So we're going to throw straight back in to the Northwest. Now, Gaza would normally be the man to come in and talk to you about this, but for some reason, he's gone to a film festival. Now, regular viewers of this channel and indeed our sister channel, Wolf United WFC, will know that a film festival would be the last thing that somebody like Connor would go to. But over here, Gaza, bless him, has gone. So he had a few bits and pieces to say. This is the Northwest League. So I'm just going to read you what it is. Very nice. He sent us a little essay. It's a very short one, but I will tell you exactly what it is that he said so that we're covering the points that he wanted to mention. So looking first of all, following their points deduction for fielding an ineligible player back in October, this was bizarre. The bottom of this league, I looked at it and I asked Gaza to explain it a bit more because this is crazy. Because FC United and Manchester did not play over the last 2 weeks, yet they have dropped a space and Salford have gone above them despite the fact they lost the 2 games that they've just played. So how has that happened? Obviously, goal difference is worse, but FC United and Manchester have just recently, in the last 2 weeks, had 3 points deducted for fielding an ineligible player back in October against Tranmere. So as a result, the final game of the season on Sunday against Bury is a must-win game for them. If they do not win, it is their last game of the season. If they do not manage to beat Bury on the 23rd, then FC United of Manchester will drop into Tier 6. So only a win will probably take them out of the drop zone. But again, who knows what might happen next. He also says a win for Salford at any point could make that whole point moot, though, because obviously 3 points clear, but the goal difference will be superior. So that's what he had to say about that. Up at the top, an incredibly strong season from Wythenshawe could see them crowned champions this Sunday. So as you can see, there is a 7-point gap between Wythenshawe and Darwin. But despite that, that's not the one, I don't think, that is the problem. The problem is Mancunian Unity sat there in 4th place with the same number of games as Wythenshawe. Darwin can't win the league. Curzon Ashton can't win the league. But Mancunian Unity could. They can finish on 43 points. So if Wythenshawe can win their game at the weekend at home against Fleetwood Town Wrens, 6th place there, then they would be the champions. Even if they're not, they only need 3 points in their remaining 5 games. And as they are the only unbeaten team in the league, it's not likely. Even if they drew their last 5 games, they would win it within 3. So we talk about leagues, John, that could potentially have things that are quite exciting. We're going to know whether or not FC United Manchester are relegated by the end of next week. And equally, we'll know whether or not Wythenshawe are champions. So this is our first league, really, that looks like it's starting to come to a close.
Yeah, and 2 teams that Gareth knows very well as well from his history between the clubs. And we had the privilege of listening to a voice note from Gareth earlier in the week about obviously his, from the social media duties that he does. So yeah, congratulations to Wythenshawe. Obviously they're not there yet, but as you rightly said, when you don't lose any games all season, it's very unlikely that they'll pick up a losing streak now, isn't it? So yeah, look, they're a team that's done amazingly well. We followed their journey this year, through Gareth and obviously Matt Cray as well from that area, neck of the woods, and they've done a cracking job, and I'm sure they'll see it through now. It seems like they've got that mentality, and usually when you go on that winning streak and you've got that winning mentality, it just drives you forward. You get that taste, don't you, to succeed. So pretty sure that, as you say, next time that we cover the Tier 5 leagues, they should be champions.
Absolutely that. Mancunian Unity, just in case you are interested, will be at home to Crew Alexandra. Obviously, they would need to win that. If Wythenshawe slip, even if that is with a draw, they would need to win that game because, of course, if Mancunian Unity do not, then all of a sudden the best they can get to is either 40 or 41 if they've drawn. So therefore, Wythenshawe could equally still lose the game and yet still be crowned champions. So some big stuff kind of happening there. We've got, I'm just looking at the fixtures now, not any other really big ones to go through on that. I think that is the biggest of them all. If it doesn't happen this weekend, Wythenshawe on the 30th will play Tranmere. So that could well be at that game. Mancunian Unity, just in case you're interested, will be away that weekend to Crew Alexander. So a bit of a double header coming up against Crew, but might be too little too late for Mancunian Unity. I suppose the only other one was Salford City, but Salford over the next 2 weeks are not playing. So it will be a case of if FC United and Manchester have won the game, that could be massive. Could be absolutely massive. So we shall see. We shall see what happens on that one. But that's the Northwest. Let's take a look at the Northeast. And again, Gaza has given us a little script here. So this is what he said. Pontyland are top. He struggles to see a world, though, where they are not caught by both Chester Street and Bradford. Now, Chester Street and Bradford are split only by 1 single point. However, they've got a huge say in where the title goes, as both of the challengers have to face Pontyland United before the season ends. So there is a lot there for them to be looking at. Now, the bottom of the league looking very different, a complete mess, and it looks as though the points deduction is going to play a significant role in deciding who goes down. Hull United currently 8 points away with 3 to play, so they seem to be dead and buried. But if there are further deductions to York, then who knows? Again, it's one of those really weird things, this league, and we'll run through it just so you are aware with what's happened. So we'll nip up to the top first. Pontyland won their only game of the fortnight, as did Chester Street Town. But what's really interesting about them is that neither of them played. So they won the game, but neither of them played. The goal difference stayed the same. They still get the 3 points, and that was because they were given walkovers. Now, interestingly, those walkovers were against, yes, you guessed it, for Pontyland, it was Hull, and for Chester Street Town, it was York. So the 3 points that you see being deducted at that point was because of these walkovers that have just happened. So they've lost some points going on there. Now, the likes of Bradford and Alnwick, they won 2, Alnwick won 1, Spennymoor won 1 and lost 1. So just regular things happening there. But if we are being brutally honest, there are 5 games in hand for Chester Street and Bradford City over Pontyland. There is only a 7-point gap, and there are 15 points available. So again, you look at the results, Chester Street only losing 1, Bradford losing only 2, Pontyland have lost 3. It feels as though both of those sides should be able to catch them. And indeed, there will be a lot coming up over the course of the weekend. So very important for them. Bradford City, for example, will be playing Hull United, or will they? We'll have to find out. Chester Street Town will be playing Alnwick, which again is quite a big game. Alnwick could have a little bit of a say into what's going on there. And Pontyland United don't play. Now, when you, because they're in the County Cup, they are playing the I2I International Soccer Academy in the County Cup. That's quite a name for your team, isn't it? But in the 30th, we've then got Chester Street Town playing Pontyland United. So at the top of the league, we could well see Chester Street Town beat Alnwick and go up to 35, and they would then face Pontyland. And if they won, they would be on 38 points, with Pontyland just a point ahead. And you would have to say at that point, advantage Chester Street. But of course, Bradford could well beat Hull or not, but still get the 3 points. which would obviously put them into a strong position as well. And they've then got to go away to Spennymoor Town, who are a bit hit and miss this season. They've won just a few more than they've lost or drawn, or one more than they've lost and drawn. So big things going on there. But for me, John, the question I've got for you with this is what a mess this is down the bottom of the league. So when you look at York Railway Institute, their adjustments are, so they've lost 6 points this season. Firstly, for not fulfilling the fixture against Pontyland on the 9th of February, and now for not fulfilling the Chester Street game on the 2nd of March. Now, when you then look at Hull United, it's even worse for them because it's happened 3 times. They've been deducted points for a game against Alnwick on the 26th, same with South Shields on the 9th of February, and now again against Pontyland on the 2nd of March. And it's these sorts of problems here that sort of cause dramas within the league, isn't it? Because you've got these matches at the top of the table which are really important, but you've got teams like York and Hull. This could be decided not by which teams won or lost the most, really, but by which team is able to put a side out and which team isn't.
Yeah, and it happens too often, doesn't it? Especially at this level. Well, not even at this level, even slightly higher up as well. But certainly in women's football on this channel, we do cover these things. And you're absolutely right. There's a team that I think one of the rules is a 3-0 walkover, isn't it? So I think there's one where if you can't fulfil the fixture, it's given a 3-0 walkover, and that might benefit the team who's actually forfeited the game basically, because only a 3-0 loss would be beneficial to them. And if you're a team that's going to win 3-0 and you're chasing the title, it's not good enough for the goal average. So yeah, I'm not saying it's tactical in any way, because I don't think it would be in this scenario. But I know that some teams might consider that. Look, it's a massive shame, isn't it, when you've got minus points and you can't even field the team, you've got no reserve team to fall back on. Now youngsters to bring up. I mean, I'm sure many of these teams in Tier 5 may not have a development team, but have they got like an under 18s section that you got some 18-year-olds there that could potentially promote who play at Saturday? Can you get anyone on a dual contract or anything just to get the game ahead? But it seems far too popular that games don't go ahead, and yes, you lose a few points. You've also got a fine, and the fine might actually damage you more than the points tally at this stage, because if you are a Hull United, and you probably think to yourself, well, we're out of this league anyway. It doesn't matter if we lose 3 points. No, it might not, but a £250 fine or more could damage you as well. So yeah, it's not great when it affects both ends of the table. In this case, it does. I'm sure it's not very often that on the same couple of weeks, the top 2 against pretty much the bottom 2 has played each other in this way. But no, I wouldn't use the word embarrassment. I just think it's a shame that clubs are in this position.
Yeah, I agree. And as we said, Hull will be away to Bradford City potentially. If they don't put out a side, they're relegated. It's as simple as that, because even if York were not to fulfil their last 3 fixtures, it wouldn't really matter, because they'd still get 9 points dropped off them. But Hull United could only get 3 better, 6 better. So it's not going to work for them. It's not ideal. So yeah, a loss to Bradford City, and we might be saying goodbye to Hull United. Obviously, only the one side being relegated here. So yeah, that is where we stand with regards to them. We won't know about the title just yet. So I get to shut up for a bit now and let you take the lead, which is wonderful news, because I've got to be honest, I need a bit of a drink. So yeah, your turn. We are over to the East Midlands Premier, which is in Tier 5, the smallest league going, but it's still got the most people being relegated. So tell us what's happening. It's looking quite interesting, especially if you are Anstey.
The East Midlands, yes. So as you rightly said, smallest team, and you've got 3 teams relegated. We've gone through this all season, so we don't need to repeat all that again. But there's two league games and 2 county cup games this week, so not too many fixtures to talk about. Mansfield 2, Basford United 1. So goals from Grace Shipman. for the home team there, and Amy Pashley as well. So that was their 2 goals, and Katie Platts for Basford United. So that's, and 3 yellow cards in the game as well, which is something that you don't see that many of. But yeah, so that keeps Mansfield within touching distance of promotion. Although I think at this stage there's at least 2 more teams that's likelier to get promoted than them. Rotherham 5-0 against Nottingham Trent University. Alicia Gale with 2. Beth Howarth with 2, and substitute Caitlin O'Callaghan with 1. So that now puts Rotherham top, but they have played 3 more than Sheffield FC women, who are in second. Sheffield obviously got relegated last year, and it's nice to see that they're pushing to get promoted again this year. And Nottingham Trent University now bottom, but do have games in hand. Other games within the area was County Cup games. So in the Sheffield and Hallamshire County Cup, Huddersfield Town had a home walkover. So as you mentioned earlier, I don't know the reason why SJR Workshop couldn't get a team out. Maybe that was the reason, I don't know, but it was a home walkover. And just touching on SJR, they are currently 3 points to the good in their relegation battle, but of course still a lot to play for at the moment. And the other County Cup is something that it happens quite often, to be honest. It was Chesterfield ladies first team against Chesterfield ladies under 23s. Now we saw this last year in a cup closer to home, closer to my home, in the Worcestershire County Cup. So last year in the final, it was Worcester first team against their development team in the final. Funnily enough, played at Worcester as well. So this time it was Chesterfield's turn, and it was their under 23s who lost 3-0 in the Derbyshire County Cup. Yeah, it's just one of those occasions where it does happen. Yeah, I don't mind it too much, but I can't help but think it's not really meant to be where two teams are against each other. I can see you've unmuted yourself there, Barry. Did you want to jump in there?
Well, I was just going to say, you'd be a bit embarrassed if you lost your under 23s, wouldn't you? Like, that's got a heck of a thing to it. So, and it's also a bit tricky because, is there the grounds there to potentially then start talking about a bit of fiddling? I'm not saying there has been, but we'll just stick a couple past you. We won't make you look terrible. And so I don't know. I'm with you. Like our county cup, it's changed slightly. So we have a county cup and a county trophy, and our under 23s are about to take part in the county trophy final, and we're about to take part in the county cup final. So, there's no conflict of interest, like you say there. This is very much one of those. But yeah, crack on.
No, that's it. Because having a quick look at the league table, I think Chesterfield was my tip to get promoted at the start of the season, just based on, well, I said start of the season. I didn't really start following it until about a couple of months in, to be honest, because I didn't know much about the teams. But as I started to learn them, as we talked about earlier, Barry, when you do start looking into these and the links with different clubs, the location, the geography, and their potentials, you start thinking, well, Chesterfield have got potential. So for me, even though they're fourth, they have got games in hand and they're not a million miles away. So I'm sure Sheffield FC United would say something different. But yeah, I'm happy to stick by Chesterfield at the moment. They are doing well. And then towards the bottom of the league, it's not all done and dusted just yet, although SJR Workshop do have games in hand which could help them survive. They're obviously sixth. Ansty Nomad's 12 points, and then you think of the 2 teams below them, it's looking quite unlikely for them to get the points to survive in Tier 5. Basford United on 6 points and Nottingham Trent University on 6. I will just shout out to the league below this. So just currently, there's 3 leagues, as we speak about every time when we talk about the East Midlands. 3 teams are relegated because 3 leagues are below them. So 1 team from each league below them will get promoted. The Northern League, the Southern League, and the Central League. So just to shout out who's currently top of those leagues who may come into Tier 5 next year. The Northern League is Gainsborough, the Central League is Loughborough Foxes, and the Southern League is Wellingsborough. So as things stand, there are discrepancies in regards to amount of games played again, all that kind of stuff. But those are the league leaders in the league below.
Another Loughborough side, that'd be quite interesting. Just to confirm, Basford are gone. they've got one game left that they can win, and that would only put them on 9 points. So it's very much gone for them, and Nottingham are in a position where they could get on to 15, but of course that takes into account that SJR works up. And I've got to be honest, every time I see that, all I can think of is Sir Jim Ratcliffe. I'm sure it's got absolutely nothing to do with him, but I can't know every time I see it. That's where I think. But yes, they could win their games and get to 15 points, but Worksop obviously just need a point to relegate them. The only team that could potentially get themselves out of trouble there is Anthony Nomads, but they've only got 2 games left within which to do it. They will be playing both those over the next 2 weeks. And guess who the first game they've got to play is against old Anthony Nomads?
Go on, you tell me.
Sir Jim Ratcliffe Workshop. So it's massive. If they win that, they'll be level on points. And then Anstey Nomads play Nottingham Trent University. So for them, that's quite a nice run-in if they can get the win over Workshop. But of course, even though they would put themselves in the best possible position with that, Workshop still have 2 extra games in hand where they would play Mansfield Town and Sheffield. So the Mansfield Town one, you would look at that and say, that's the one, really. They'd be earmarking. If they can just get a draw even in that one, that might well be enough to keep them up. But my goodness, what a little league that ended up being. So, yeah, lots happening there. Rotherham United, Sheffield there. Chesterfield were, of course, top. There was a bit of a big drop there, really, because Chesterfield only drew. And this was, for me, that was the big thing. The draw was against Anstey Nomads. So, Chesterfield, who were top of the league and flying, had that draw against Anstey, were really battling. I found it absolutely fascinating just having a little look through that league and seeing what's happened over the last couple of weeks. But yeah, I mean, again, take your pick. What's that? 4 points between first and fifth. Absolutely crazy. Anything could happen there, except for maybe a Stamford title win, because they look like they are maybe a few too many games played to be included in that. But yeah, wow, what a league. What a league. Right, let's take you over to the West Midlands, Johnny Boy, where it's all the same, really, at the top and the bottom, but a few shakers and movers in the middle.
Yeah, so it's been a couple of weeks since we've covered this league, so I will try and talk a little bit about what's happened in between, because you say that there's not been much change, but what I would say is there has actually been change at the top, because there's been County Cup games. So there's County Cup games Sunday just gone, County Cup games the week before. So what I would say is Kidderminster the Harriers did get to the top of the league. However, because they played a County Cup game the Sunday just gone, Lightown have took that lead. So lots to get into there. Let's go back through the results. Sunday just gone. League Town 2, Port Vale 4. Now, if you remember last time we done a show, we spoke about Port Vale having 10 games in hand. 10 games, and this wasn't a misprint. This is 10 games in hand of a team above them. They're gradually clawing these games back now. But a great 4-2 win for them. Just shout out a few goal scorers. It was Leek actually scored first and scored last. So Mella scored in the 5th minute, and then Port Vale ended up going 4-1 up with a hat trick from Della as well. And then Katie Mayer scored in the 89th minute. So League Town scored first and last, but Port Vale scored 4 in between that. Noel Ladies won, Alv Church won. Now that was surprising, because Alv Church had been playing well, been picking up points, obviously. Noel towards the bottom of that league. Katie Atta for the home team, and Laura Stevens for Alv Church. But that draw now for Noel has closed that gap against the bottom to just 4 points. So I know it's still 4 points. However, it's still doable at this stage. You'd like to think, if you're in Noel's position, to keep on getting a bit of momentum. However, relegation does look like it's just a waiting game now. But it's still nice to see that they're pushing and getting points on the board. Solihull Sporting 0, Lightown 1. So this is interesting. This is so, unless if you actually know a little bit about Solihull Sporting, you won't actually realise that they have been developing throughout the whole season. They've been recruiting well from Solihull Moors, the previous Solihull Moors manager. is obviously now at Solihull Sporting, and they recruited before this game 2 players. So the registration deadline for signing players was last Thursday. So they managed to bring in 2 players, 2 players that played for their manager previously at Solihull Moors, but more importantly and close to home for me, 2 players from Stourbridge actually went to Solihull Sporting. Now Stourbridge are a tier 3 side, and those 2 players, one of them was Debbie Walker. Now, Debbie Walker was considered as one of the better players at Stourbridge. She's left and gone there. And Lindsay Ross Baker also followed her. So 2 players who have played for the manager before and decided to drop down a couple of leagues to really support their old manager here to save them from the drop. And then Camden Court 2, Cobb Sphinx 1, Jess Lundy with a goal, and Georgia Furlong with a goal as well. That's Lundy's 34th goal of the season. If anyone knows anyone out there who scored more than 34 without me going through every league on FA full time to say if you've scored more than that, if you're in the National League or regional leagues, let us know. Let us know. And I do mention it every now and again when Camden Court comes up. But 34 goals is quite phenomenal. Barry, I'll just throw you in there while I have a quick drink. What do you think about 34 goals at this stage?
Oh, it's pretty unreal, isn't it? Like you say, 34 goals is. I'm thinking to our top striker, Gemma Croucher, has scored 21 so far this
That's still
season.
good. Yeah.
34 goal involvement. Should have had assists as well, but yeah, to go out there and score 34 goals is absolutely unreal, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. So I will touch on the County Cup as well, but why you got the league table on screen? Obviously, Lightown played 16, plus goal average of 35, 41 points. Kidderminster Harriers second. Now, what I would say is it's turned into a 2-horse race now, in my opinion. The games are levelling up, so Shifnal had played a good number of games more than the teams below them at the time. However, Light and Kiddie are both catching up with games now, and you can see that the points tally is kind of getting to where you thought it might have been, come Christmas time when those games in hand was about. And Light only winning 1-0 against a relegation candidate, even though they'll be happy with points on the board, it has kind of dented their goal average. So yes, so it's in both of their hands because they do still need to play each other, and that's next week.
It's this weekend, isn't it? It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
You've got them, and then Kiddie have also got Camden Court the week after.
Yeah, so it's certainly not over, and look, it doesn't matter what team you win. It's only 3 points, isn't it? So it doesn't matter who you win. You've got 7 league games left. Kidderminster Harriers, you need to win all of them. They're all equally as important because you've got to win them all. And that leads me nicely on to the County Cup. So regarding the County Cup, there was two different cup going on. One in Worcester, and then one in Shropshire. The Worcestershire County Cup was Kidderminster Harriers, and they played Tier 4 team, Worcester City. This was a game that I actually went to. So Kiddie Harriers 2, Worcester City 1, and Kiddie opted to reverse this fixture. So it was originally Kidderminster Harriers who was at home, but they decided to give the occasion what it deserves, and that was to play at Sixway Stadium in Worcester. And it was Worcester that took the lead after a fantastic free kick from Annie Highway in the 4th minute. Went in 1-0 at half time, Worcester. And then there was several changes throughout half time. So I think Worcester made 4 changes. Kidderminster Harriers made 2 changes, and he completely flipped the game. Worcester came out looking the weaker team then, and Kidderminster came out a lot more dominant. And it was Kidderminster's turn to score a free kick. Ellie McGovern on the 50th minute, roughly, doing what she does well. We all know, if you follow Ellie McGovern's career, we know that she can score free kicks, and that's exactly what she did. And then substitute Izzy Whittick scored the winner after a driving run from the left-hand side from Beth Gallagher to make it 2-1. And Kiddie are now playing Worcester development team in the final. So we spoke about these teams. They could have played each other again in the final if Worcester had held on to their lead. However, this time, Kidderminster have kind of spot that from happening. So it's Kiddie against Worcester reserves in the Worcestershire County Cup, which is on the 20th of April. And then the Shropshire County Cup, Shifnal 4, Allscott Heath 0. Maria Bell Jenna Bodison, Rebecca Lee Bowen, and Maisie May Doherty all on the score sheet for Shifnal. So yeah, it's very, very interesting because I do like the county cups. I think they had something completely different. You're still getting the big score lines, as you can say, 4-0. Shifnal obviously doing well in their league. All Scots a completely different tier. But yeah, congratulations to Shifnal, who are having a very good, I think, a good season in cups and the league.
No, fair to say, and like you say, it's going to be really, really big up at the top there. But just to throw out a little bit there in terms of the relegation side of things, because the next 2 weeks is quite big there as well. Noel, who are obviously bottom facing Coventry Sphinx, while Leek face Solihull. So the bottom four all playing against each other there. And then the week after, Coventry play Leek and Noel play Solihull. So the top four, that's where the bottom four play each other over the next 2 weeks. So we could see potentially some confirmed relegation. Of course, if Noel, what can Noel get to now? They've got 7 points, so they could get to 25. But obviously, by the time we get to this, it could be they can only get 19 extra points. Yeah, it would be a bit be a bit tough. So yeah, be interesting to see where they get to. But those 4 games could be quite big. So it seems like a big 2 weeks in the West Midlands regional women's football league.
There is one more match going on today. So it's because we're live, I'll say right now there is a county cup game kicking off around about now. What time is it? What time is it, Barry? Oh yeah, okay. In the Midlands, Stoke under 23s are against Sporting Calcer on Sporting Calcer's team. So Sporting Calcer are the reigning champions of this county cup. And they're about to kick off against Stoke. So I know it's not necessarily tier 5, it's more National League kind of based. However, still lower league lingo, and it's in the Midlands, so that's kicking off tonight.
Well, you've got to get your teams in, ain't you? So well done, good job.
You got to get Andy Mulligan's team in, who's doing very well, at the moment.
Absolutely. Not wrong there. Right, so let's get down to the southeast as we start looking at the last 2 leagues of the tier 5. So a lot going on here in London. We talk about teams that have had games in hand. Fulham have been that side. They were in a situation where they had probably about 5 or 6 games in hand. They've still got 5 or 6 games in hand. It's absolutely mad what is going on at this league at the moment. And I haven't made a typo here on this one. Fulham are only on 12 games played so far out of a total of 22. They've still got 10 games to go. Saltdean have still got 9 games to go. Hayward's Heath at the bottom of the table still got 8 games to go. So absolutely crazy in terms of the amount that's going on there. We've had some pretty big wins. So Dartford are top, having won 2 games on the trot. Again, they beat Ashford Town 5-0 away from home and managed to win the important game at the top of the table against Saltdean by 1-0. They also managed to win their League Cup semi-final against Dorking. So at the moment, Dorking probably feeling a little bit sorry for themselves. They were looking like they were right up there and possible favourites to go up into tier 4 alongside Fulham, but they've dropped off a little bit, 10 points behind Dartford. They haven't played over the last couple of weeks aside from in the League Cup, and as you can see there, they are not looking like they are going to be catching Dartford at all. There's still 5 games to go. They could make it to 50 points, but you would imagine both Dartford and Fulham look as if they are likely to take over in that respect. Fulham's 2 wins, massive. They beat Ebbsfleet 6-0 away from home. They beat Millwall 7-0 away from home. Fulham are just 100% looking like they're going to end up walking this league the way that it's going. 6 games in hand over Dartford. That's 18 points. They can get themselves to 50 and still be on games with Dartford. So huge things going on there. Fulham also managed to beat Millwall in their League Cup semi-final as well, 5-0. So the final looks like it's going to be Dartford against Fulham. So basically it's Dartford v Fulham for the rest of this season. That is where they are. Saltdean not completely out of it. They've only played a game more than Fulham, so they can still get themselves well in there. They can get to 46 points, so they can still overtake Dartford. There is a lot there to be looking at. When you look through the rest of the league, not a huge amount really to talk about, although Ashford United did manage to get a win. That win was against Haywards Heath, and it put them above Sport London, Benfica, who, I've got to be honest, are having a little bit of a nightmare. They've had to postpone a few games, and it's not looking great for them at the moment. You talk about games that are being played tonight. John Sutton against Barking is should currently be underway, provided nothing has been called off. And when you start looking at the next couple of weeks before we are back looking at this, some big ones. Dorking will have the chance to play Haywards Heath. So again, a chance to try and consolidate second, which I feel is probably their best hope at the moment. But Fulham will face Ebbsfleet, and you've got to think, having just beaten them 6-0 away from home, they're very much in with a shout of closing that gap a little bit more with Dorking. Ashford will play Saltdean, and that's at Ashford. So again, you would look at that as being 2 wins for the big teams at the top there. Dartford are away to Sutton. So nothing there that would say there's going to be a big change within the league. Sport London have got to play Barking, and Haywards Heath, of course, we said are playing Dorking. So Ashford, Saltdean, can't really see too much happening down there at the bottom. The week after, we have got Saltdean against Millwall, so that's a bit of a tougher game for them. Sport London play Haywards Heath, which is huge for them. That for them is a must-win game if they are wanting to stay up, I think. I mean, Haywards Heath would probably think the same, but massively so for Sport London, who are 9 points better off than Haywards Heath, and probably, you have to say, have got the better opportunity of staying up. But Ashford United will be playing Sutton United. So again, that's a very close and tight one. Will we have relegation sorted in 2 weeks' time? I fear we won't. There will still be 18 points available, and I can't see the gap between Haywards Heath and Ashford being 18 points, but it will be nonetheless quite exciting. Dartford will be away to Barking, so they've, again, probably likely to win that. Dorking will be at home to Fulham. So at that point, you would expect to see, and I would expect to see, I'll call it now, I would expect to see Fulham in second place by the time we look at this league again, with Saltdean probably just behind by a point. So maybe Saltdean is still in the same spot, but much closer to Dorking. And we will see also the sides not necessarily closer to Dartford, but certainly closer to the end of the season. So some massive things happening here in the London and South East. Anything you want to add on that one, John?
Well, not so much about this particular league, but what I have thought of is as we're going through this show, we're talking about Tier 5, and there's a lot of the season's not over, basically. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you have a look at Tier 3, Tier 4, you kind of say, oh, well, they're going to win this league, they're going to win that league, they're going to get relegated. Whereas what I know about Tier 5, yes, you've got like teams that are clear favourites, or you might have a couple with minus figures, so you know that they're gone. But generally, there's still a lot of answers still to get. And so I'm thinking to myself, well, what's the difference between Tier 3, 4 and Tier 5? And all I can think of is the disparity in games, the fact that there's still a lot of questions to be asked because the games are just so erratic, 3, 4, 5 games between some, so we don't know the results yet. There's still so many twists and turns in there, and I think that's why these leagues are still fun, is because you just don't know just yet, because everyone's in a place where they probably shouldn't be in the league.
Massively so. I mean, you look at Fulham, they played the 23rd and the 30th. They've then got to play Sunday the 6th and then on the 9th, so that's the Wednesday. They play Sunday the 13th, Sunday the 20th. They've got a League Cup on Sunday the 27th. So for them, it's not too bad. Their league will go until the 18th of May. So it is just one a week, but they've still got that game in midweek. For them, though, it's not so bad. They've got to travel to Sutton on the 9th and then travel to Haywards Heath on the 13th. But the big one for them will be a week later when they travel away to Saltdean United. So, yeah, like you say, it's those sort of things that will happen. But, yeah,
And,
massively so. The
you know,
trans-
these midweek games as well. You know, will all the players be available? Will it disrupt training? Probably, because you're not going to train hard on a Tuesday if you're going to play it on a Wednesday. So there's no given. You know, the favourites might not win these midweek games. You know, you got to look out for these.
Exactly. Absolutely. So I think it's big, very big. Right, let's look at the final league of the evening. I said to John, this will probably be a shorter one today, and it's not quite been the case, has it? We've had a really good conversation about it. It's been quite nice. So this is my league, the one that I am a little bit more involved in. As you can see, not a lot happening in terms of the top five, in terms of changes. A few movers and shakers as you move further down. So obviously the big news is up at the top. Royston winning their 2 games, Luton winning their 2 games, and Stevenage winning their 1. Royston had a double header. They played Bowers and Pitsea. They boxed them 8-1 when they went away from home, but only beat them 2-0 last weekend in the home game, which is, you know, I mean, for Bowers and Pitsea, quite good, but like I said, they were absolutely hammered the weekend before. This time we're looking at the likes of Laura Mills, Emma Slater, scoring the goals last weekend. And again, incredibly good forwards. 10 points the difference between Royston and Luton. Luton have had, again, a couple of games that they will be quite pleased about. 3-1 win this weekend against Watford Ladies Development at home, and then an away win to bottom of the table, Cambridge City, 3-0. So you're looking at those 2 teams. Luton can, as it stands, get above Royston Town. They've got 4 games in hand. That gives them 12 points. If they win them, would put them on to 45. So Luton can get there, but they can't afford a slip up. Stevenage, of course, also in with a couple of games in hand. They can close the gap to Royston. They are 13 points behind. 7 points is what they can close that gap to, and they still have to play Royston and Luton. So there's possibilities to try and pull some points back. Either way, Stevenage will have a massive say in which side wins the league this year, whether that's Royston, Luton, or Stevenage, who are the outside bet on this occasion. Dussingdale and Hellersden was the team that they played at the weekend, and it was a 3-0 win. With Lily Kelly scoring a goal. Got to shout her out. 16 years old, and my goodness, scores in the 90th minute. She's been playing for the development team all season, and then she comes in, only her second appearance for the first team, and she scores a goal. Hadn't scored at all for the development squad as yet, so a massive weekend for her. Other than that, the rest of the league has all been a little bit and what I mean by that is you look at Haringey, they've won 9 but lost 9. St Albans City have won 8 but drawn and lost 8. Wroxham have won 6 but drawn and lost 9. So it's they're winning some, they're losing some. It's not very consistent, and that's the difference, I think, really between the top 3 and these sort of middle teams that you see and that are jumping around a little bit. Some definite exceptions for that. Bowers and Pitsea, they sacked their manager not so long ago. They've got us a new one in. The guy managed Real Bedford. So very good there. Dean Perrott, he knows exactly what it is that he should be doing, but they are slipping and sliding big time. It didn't help having 2 games against Royston Town, who are fighting for Tier 4, but it's not good, and they need to arrest that slide as quickly as they possibly can, because Needham Market and Cambridge City are not out of it yet. Needham and Cambridge City. Cambridge beat Needham a few weeks ago. We mentioned that on our last show that we did about this. They were due to play again. They did, and Needham and Cambridge drew. So as a result, there's still that 3 points difference between the two of them, and it doesn't help Cambridge City, although they've got 2 games in hand over Bowers and Pitsea, as do Needham Market. You've still got to win them, and that will be the hardest thing for them to do. So lots going on around this area as it stands. Some big games coming up over the next couple of weeks. So Cambridge City will be playing Enfield. They do have that chance. They could potentially get themselves a little win there. Luton will be facing Dussendale and Hellersden. Now, Dussendale and Hellersden, of course, have lost their last 2 games, so Luton will be feeling quite positive about that. Stevenage are going to be playing Needham Market. So again, you would look at that as hopefully a potential 3 points, but it's going to be played at the Lamex Stadium, which is the main stadium for Stevenage Football Club in League One. Massive occasion. The last time they played there was, I think, 2021. It must have been the 21-22 season, was it? No, it's the 22-23 season. Played Colney Heath and they drew 1-1. It was a bit of an occasion, but it was absolutely larruping it down with rain as well. So a massive chance to try and get the numbers in for Stevenage against Needham Market, and that is definitely something they will be looking to do. Royston will be away to Watford Ladies Development, so all of the top 3 playing sides that are fairly low down currently, which could be difficult because obviously they're all fighting to stay alive. Wroxham have bounced back since their double defeats to Stevenage and are up in 6th. They will be playing St Albans, so a good chance for them to jump into 5th and arrest their own decline. When you get to the last week, 30th of March, last week of March, Luton will be playing Wroxham. And Enfield will be away to St Albans, so not huge things happen there. But Luton will have that opportunity to narrow that gap because Royston and Stevenage will be playing in the County Cup final that weekend. So Luton could well find themselves 3 points closer. The gap might just be 7 points with just the 3 games in hand, which would certainly make life a little bit easier for Luton. What I would say though about Luton's run-in, just to close, is that it's not very easy. They are going to be playing in their County Cup final tomorrow. They then have to face, as I said, Dussendale on the 23rd. They've got a reasonably simple sort of run, 30th, 6th, and then on the 13th of April, when they play Enfield Town away, they then got a home game against St Albans on the 16th, an away game against Stevenage on the 20th, a away game to Watford Ladies Development on the 23rd, a home game to Bowers and Pitsea on the 27th, and an away game to St Albans City on the 29th. So when you look at that as it stands, that is Christ. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games being played in 16 days. And that, in my mind, is absolutely mad. So although Luton are sitting there and thinking they can get themselves above, I've got to be honest, I feel like Royston are possibly still the favourites for this one because that's going to take a gargantuan effort from Luton. Any points that you'd like to bring up on the Eastern region to finish us off, Johnny Boy?
Well, it's certainly exciting, it's especially towards the bottom because those games in hands obviously supports that. You know, if you can just get one more game, one more win under your belt, then all of a sudden it kind of shakes up the team above you. I agree with yourself regarding the top of the league. I think I think obviously it has been exciting, and I'm sure Stevenage should be happy with where they are as well with what they've achieved. But I'll probably just end the point on being forced to play midweek games now. So, you know, you've got yourself in a position whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. You know, your pitch might have been not up to scratch on one occasion. So your game's being delayed or postponed up until now. It could be because you're doing really well and you're progressed in the cup. So you've had to postpone a league game. But what's happening now at this time of the season is you've got to get your games in. So you've got to play midweek. So as you say, 6 games in 16 days. All of a sudden you look at, oh yeah, got so and so, got loads of games in hand. That might not be a good thing at it. So and you never extend the season. It's very rare that happens. You want everyone to finish on the same day. So the league are obviously under pressure there. You know, you can't have one team finishing on one weekend and another team finishing on another weekend. Not really. So yeah, you got to get these midweek games in, and we need to keep an eye for those.
I mean, it's interesting you say that because actually Luton are down to finish their season on the 11th of May with the League Cup final against Stevenage. But we know from Stevenage that we are currently, as it stands, away from home to Needham Market on the 18th of May. So I don't know if Luton are just unavailable on that last day, but it seems like if the league is going to the 18th, then it kind of makes sense to give people that opportunity. But Royston are due to finish on the 11th as well. So maybe, just maybe, there'll be a bit of jiggery pokery happen with Stevenage's fixtures, which will mean that obviously we'll be in a tricky situation, because then Stevenage will end up with a midweek fit. Well, they've already got one coming up as well. So yeah, big games, big things happening all the way across the leagues. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what is known in the business as a wrap. John, could you ever have thought that we'd have spent 70 minutes talking about tier 5? That's 8 leagues, to be fair. It's not even 10 minutes and a section.
It's been fantastic. I've really enjoyed it. Obviously, we do a bit of homework throughout the week, and some of it's not even homework; it's a passion. Especially in my case, the West Midlands League. It's something that I'm heavily involved with, and the County Cup. So yes, it's nice to be able to talk to people watching this, to kind of hopefully pass my passion on. And obviously, I'm learning the Southern Leagues for myself, because I know how passionate you are, and Gareth's the same. So really enjoyable, and I really enjoyed tonight.
No, it's been absolutely brilliant. Next week, we should see the return of Gaza, providing he has made it out of the cinemas that he is in and hasn't walked into any wrong doors. So we're very much looking forward to next week. I'm sure we'll be back looking at tier 4. Let's not forget we've had a couple of relegations already happening there, chief of those being the MK Dons. But it will be very interesting next week. Will there be any more to add? Will there be anybody who looks like they're winning the championship? We are hitting that point. We're in the middle of March. The end of the season is coming very thick and very fast. But the end of the show, I'm afraid, is now. We'll be back next week. We'll see you then. Take care, everyone.